as a working man, no matter what you achieve in life, you want your family intact, you want your children to turn out well, you want your parenting outcomes to be positive. And that's why we're here discussing this important topic today. So welcome, and please clap for yourselves. People have been amazing since morning. It's not easy. And also clap for Wimbiz. They've done well. They've done a fantastic job. So I'm going to hit the ball rolling by calling our panelists very amazing people, amazing set of people, very well-learned people in the parenting space. Parenting is one of those things that is difficult to teach because people always ask, wait till you go teach me about parenting. What are you going to tell me? But there is a lot to learn. And the truth is that as we continue to allow ourselves to learn the different tools, it will help us in our parenting outcomes. So first of all, I'm going to call someone very dear to me. I've worked with her in the parenting space a lot. Beautiful in and out. Her name is Irene Bangwell. Irene is the co-founder of the North 100 Naira a Day School. You need to find out what that's about. It's an amazing initiative. She's also a parenting coach, and she focuses on the girl child. Please clap for Irene. I remember the first time I had a conference when I invited her. Someone said, "Why only girl? Why only girls?" You will soon find out she talks to children. She speaks to children in particular, but the girl child is a special reason why. Welcome, Irene. Welcome. Please clap for Irene once again. And this world is really a global village. Everybody's connected in one way or the other. And I thought I didn't know Isioma, the next person I'm going to call until I started talking to her. The next person I'm going to call up is Isioma Asiodo Otugo. Isioma is the senior advisor, I&S Shell Advisory Board. She's also in charge of the Leaning Career Mom Network. She's the head of network, and she's the founder of Blazers and Babies, a wonderful community for parents who are working, career moms to be specific. Welcome, Isioma. And she flew in from somewhere in the Middle East to be here, so please clap for Isioma. Clap for Isioma. Welcome. And last and certainly not the least, the lone man on the panel, Mr. Akeola Akeropo. Welcome, Mr. Akeola. Mr. Akeola is the founder of Parent Mark Consult. And like the name suggests, it's all about parenting. Parenting outcomes, how we can parent better, what we can do. And I'm really excited to have him on this panel because many times when we talk about parenting, we always, it almost sounds like it's mothering while saying and not parenting because it's always as if it's just the moms that come out. So even though this is a conference for women, it's good to have a male perspective in the room. Very important to have you here. Thank you so much. And straight away, I'm going to go straight to talk to, I called you last, Mr. Akeola, but I'm going to go to you first. Many times we have a lot of women who are taking all sorts of roles, working across the world, having to travel to take jobs, having to travel for meetings, And then the men as well, they've been doing it for years. You have men living in Nigeria, their families are in Canada or wherever. How are fathers able to stay present, are able to also support their wives who are busy? So it's a two-pronged question. How are men able to stay present, do their own bits, and how are they able to support the women in their lives to also parent more effectively?
Okay, thank you. So first of all, I want to thank Wimbiz, Women in Management and Business. I'm talking about the Board of Trustees for counting me worthy to be here in the midst of women, because when I received the mail, and as usual in our house, we deliberate, and my son raised a question. I know you've gone to speak in some places. Are you a woman? Why are you here? And I said that because of your mom. And the woman gave birth to me. So let's go and talk. Thank you, Board of Trustees. The second person I want to appreciate is my wife. She's not here, unavoidably absent, Mrs. Folashade Akeola. I was supposed to be here because of the job. She was not able to make it. So thank you. So when we look at the questions too, that the women are now in the forefront, then what are the men doing to support them? So I'll take that back to the cultural stage. It's so difficult here in Africa to see, for a man to want to assume that, or to want to do the job of babysitting or supporting the mom in the kitchen or in any chore, right? So they turned it to be, it's not so. That it's not meant to be so. When I wrote a book in 2018, Daddy, Where Are You? That was actually the conversation that led to that book between my wife and our son. My wife called him to come and do something in the kitchen. Then, this boy was around 11, going to 11. He was born in 2007. 2017. That was when that conversation happened, precisely October. So, and he bluntly told my wife that it is not the job of men, of boys, to be in the kitchen. Please call my sister to be in the kitchen. So my wife was livid. Why would you do that? My wife called me that, and you said I shouldn't beat this boy. This is what the guy said. I said, give the boy the phone. And the boy told me bluntly, he said, yes, Dad, I have never seen you in the kitchen. So it is not the job of boys to be in the kitchen. So when I told my, I said, I'm sorry, I take that full responsibility. So when I go back home and I called the guy still told me. So it was a Thursday, then during rainy season. Fortunately for us, but unfortunately for the boy, and I said, what is going to happen henceforth? You and I will always go to the market to buy foodstuff. Then we bring it home for your mom and your sister to cook. Is that okay? My boss said, it's perfect. So that morning I woke him up, let's go. And it was raining, and I was so happy. And if you know where I stay in Ogba. Ogba to Agege, that Agege market, Abattoir, right? So when we drove to that place, the car park, it was still raining. I said, bros, let's go. My boss said, Daddy, let's stay in the car while we call those Alabaru to go and bring it for. I said, no, you won't learn anything. I want you to learn. Oh yeah, let's go. So inside the rain, we pushed ourselves out. And I still made sure that we didn't stay at the nearby the car park. I was trying to I lied to him that what we wanted to buy is still in. And we walked about 500 meters away from where we parked. And we got there. I made sure that I argued the price. And he was just giving me a nudge. Daddy, this is okay. I said, no, it's not okay. Let us get the best. So we bought it. And this boy was smart. He reminded me that can't we buy what we needed for the whole month? I said, no. He wanted to make it just a one-off transaction. So we got home. We washed some meat, all those things. Then a week after, we repeated that for 6 months. For 6 weeks. 6 weeks. The 7th week, he reminded me, but then I had a speaking engagement somewhere. He now told his mom that the mom should drive in to that market so that he can follow. So since then, that bad culture, I don't know who told him, I didn't teach him, but through conduct, I have taught him. He has never seen me there. So then, because of my busy schedule, I had to give him time to always do all those things, just for him to know that what we were raised with is no longer relevant in today's work, in today's reality. So we have we have women who are upwardly mobile people that in their respective spheres of influence, they get engaged all through in the morning. They leave home around 5 a.m. and they come back 9 p.m. So who does the work in the home? Like in my house now, my wife will have to go to work, come back by 6 p.m. But my own work is flexible. I work for myself. I could go and pick the children. I could cook, do some things before she comes back. It has never been a problem for me. So when you want to address that, we need to attack the root, which is the culture. And that is what I tell people. Culture supposed to be progressive. The people who handed all this activities, the belief systems for us, they've gone. Some of them, we never met them. We only met all those belief systems that men are not supposed to do this. This is the job of women. This is that. But can we for once realize that these belief systems that were handed over to us 200 years ago, 100 years ago, were not without the input of those people who gave us. When we said that they are not without the input of those people who gave us, so they gave it to us based on what they considered relevant at that particular time. And that's why they came up with this notion that women are emotional, the men are, men are logic. Yes, those things came out when men used to go to war. Men needed logic to win the war. The women stayed at home. But now we don't go to wars again. Nobody goes to war again. People go to work intellectually. Nobody goes to war with physical appearance, with the exception of some areas where wars are inevitable, right? But in major setting of the society, we fight with our brain. So those things need to change without necessarily losing value. So when we say culture, I'm not really against. I'm a cultural person. I love culture. I teach my children with Yoruba, proverbs, everything. I don't support it in a way whereby we lose those things. But any culture that wants to trample on the relevance of the society, that wants to trample on the human rights or rights of the other gender, should actually be thrown out like a travesty of justice. Apology to lawyers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Akinola. Thank you so much. And right, I'm going to go straight to Isioma. You live outside the country with your children. You live and work outside the country. I'm sure it was work that took you outside. And your husband is here. And, you know, it's the new reality. We have a lot of families where they live apart, or a woman is living, working in different countries, or we're doing hybrid work, or we're here and there. What are the challenges that you have faced personally? Because we want to talk from your own personal experience, draw from that. Running a home, and how have you been able to help your family thrive? What tips do you have? What strategies have helped you in this mobile world that you live in?
That's a very difficult question because I'm navigating, but I would share what I've learned so far and what I'm doing. And I want to just put some context. I went on this opportunity as a self-driven opportunity and, let's say, God-orchestrated opportunity. So it was not Jakpa, like the man is providing, he's a breadwinner, and he sends his wife and children for passport abroad. I wanted to grow a global career, and I have the potential to do that, and I chose to pursue it. So it's different dynamics. I'm the leading part of the couple.
It's a good time to clap.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So that context is different. The moment I got this opportunity, I actually did one thing. I started educating myself around the impact on my kids. My kids are 10 and 7. I know most Nigerian parents, when they want to relocate with their kids, they don't tell the kids. They tell the kids it's a holiday, and then they go away with their kids. I found a lot of research that showed that when you do that, it impacts this child's sense of identity. It's almost like you're being narcissist. You just abducting your kids. You just feel like their friendships are not important. Their opinions are not important. So when I saw that research, I decided to have a conversation with my kids about adventure around the world. And I bought a map of the world and put it in their room. So they were thinking, how do these people live? But they didn't yet know that I had an opportunity to go abroad. But the point I'm trying to make now is learner mindset and curiosity. There's a lot of research around parenting. There's a lot around research around familiar relationships. So I'm focusing on parenting because kids are the ones you can still mold. The spousal part is a complex issue because, as Mr. Akinropo has said, our culture has done a bad job. But a lot of our men, unfortunately, are still in denial of how bad the job is. They still think they are the best thing since sliced bread. So navigating that complexity. So my own view was my children, they are still malleable and all that, and they were so excited. So I told them, we are going for an adventure. Take it like we're going for an amusement park. Some rides are going to be fun, some rides are going to be tough, but we'll get on all the rides. And it helped me. They came on the plane with me, we landed, and of course, there have been some challenges. One challenge is a challenge against your person as a human being. You grow up in Nigeria, I'm now living in Qatar, it's a Middle Eastern culture. What is normal in Nigeria, sorry, is not normal in Qatar, right? How are you ready to change? Or are you trying to force yourself to be, I'm a Nigerian, I must do my Nigerian things and wear my Nigerian. So there's the part around looking at the culture around you and your person and trying to find the new person that can adapt into that society. Because it's more difficult when you choose to be you can hold on to your identity and your person so much that you'll be a misfit and you're already a minority. So being very educated and deliberate about how this cross-cultural thing is going to affect your person as an individual, as Mrs. Bimbo said, I am, so my person first. The next thing is my relationships, friendships, marriage, parental relationships, being ready for the evolution and navigating it. I already had the mindset that things are not going to be the same. It won't be the same because you're not living in the same house anymore. The power dynamics is changing and all. Just having your mind open around that. Then around your purpose too. So why am I going on this assignment, right? And what's the implication of this assignment on my purpose? So it was clear to me because that is what I had to hold on to, when, things get tough. And finally, the price I will pay. We talk a lot around women. I am possible, I'm ambitious, and everything, but there's a price for your achieving your possibility. There's a price. But are you consciously making the trade-offs? Or are you allowing it to happen to you? Right? And some of those prices can be little if you look at support around. I know people say, I am enough, everything I have is within me. But you need to get to a point where you seek help. Managing cross-cultural families is not a new thing. People have been doing it, but maybe triggered by refugee situations and all that. But there's a lot of, aside from research, and there's a lot of support. Honestly, if you can get a coach, that's something helpful. It's going to challenge you. If you need therapy, you need to get it because it's going to challenge all your persons. And guess what? One of the things that helps the fabric of society is the family and community. And now you are uprooting yourself based on your potential, right? And maybe economic situation. So it's not going to be easy, right? No matter how many zeros are at the back of the figure they are giving you, be ready to navigate these challenges. As I said, the price you would pay, does it align with your purpose? The partnerships and relationships, and your person. I'm not the same person that left Nigeria a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much, Isima, for sharing that. It was very practical stuff. And there's something you mentioned, different culture. And even our keynote speaker spoke about a culture shock when you're in a different country, different place. I want Irene to speak a bit to that because, we're in a different place. Things are treated differently. Education system is different. So many things are not quite the same. As a parent, when you have to deal with children in different locations or in a different location, what are the things you can do to help in that education space to make sure your child is getting the right kind of education that you will be happy with?
So I'd like to start by welcoming everyone. Thank you for choosing our session this evening. I also want to thank the WIMBIZ team for choosing us. I'm just learning from everyone on the panel. So what Trauma has asked is in two ways. We have parents who have relocated and their daughters and sons are left behind while they've moved to other cities, some temporary. And then we have the ones that relocated with their children and they're navigating the cultural differences together. Am I correct?
Yes.
So I'm going to start with the ones that are leaving their children behind, then I'll talk about cross-border relationships. So I've seen this happen now. parents left, but left their kids with other people. That decision has to be thoroughly thought through. For example, if you're a supervisory systemic parent, is the person you're handing over your child to thorough and supervisory in their nature? What is the capability of that person in managing first your child's trauma that you've left? Because many children left behind within the very first few months and years deal with the trauma that comes with, this is not my home. And for any human being, our default is to be at home. And home is where our parents are. No matter how strict they are, that's home. So they are now in new spaces where they are strangers, even though mommy and daddy feel that that is also home. So it means that we're leaving our children for people who understand those dynamics. When the child is moody, they are not livid, they are not upset, they are not triggered by the child's attitude. They understand that this child is going through certain nuances. The second thing is, one of the things I have seen is that sometimes when parents leave girls, they feel rejected by that move. And that rejection pushes them to the opposite sex for validation. So you'd find sexual misbehavior start to kick in. And it's not unusual for the receiving families to feel like, I don't want you to be a bad influence on my children. Meanwhile, we're supposed to be saying, what happened? Do you understand? So it means that before we leave, there's supposed to be some form of conversations around trauma and sex education for the children as they're left behind. Or at least in the homes that they're moving into, there's someone knowledgeable enough to continue those kinds of conversations so that these children learn healthy ways to cope with this separation. We also need to think about, in the homes we're living these kids, who are the people in these homes? Not who you would like them to be, who they really are. Sexual abuse happens mostly with people that are related to us. Someone that nobody will be uncomfortable if they saw them around your child. I mean, a few years back, we saw the sad letter a girl wrote after she committed suicide of her mother's younger brother who was having repeated intercourse with her in their home that she became addicted to it. The question I'm asking is, that happened under the nose of her parents. What about in the absence of their parent? Because a parent's eye on the child will always be totally different from another person's eyes on the child. So we need to ask and audit, who am I leaving my child with? How skilled is this person? What are some challenges that will come with this, leaving this child behind? And then let's now talk about cross-border experiences. Society knows the era we are on. Even before the JACPA conversation, we heard Dr. Sioma talk about going for career advancement and stuff like that. When we start to travel across borders, we need to be careful how we trample Nigeria to our children. What's the narrative we sell about Nigeria to our children? Because if we have because it's white, it's got to be right, your children are going to move into those cultures and believe absolutely everything that they see. Because, if Nigeria worked and our culture worked, what are we doing here? So you heard Ms. Akinrokpo say culture is not totally wrong. If it's not progressive, it's not empowering, we put it behind us. So it means that our children need to know from home a narrative about Africa and African values that is sustaining. And then when we move across borders, we have to be present. One of my friends says there's a strategy to this thing, there's a method to this madness. Because we move abroad, you can't afford caregiving in most cases. The kids are now on their own. They're going to school on their own. Their schools are crazy. And now your child is coming home to say, Mommy, I'm thinking something in my head. And you put them on a flight and send them back to us. What is that? Nigeria is not a therapy room. So sit down with your child and deal with the madness. I don't know if you understand me. They say children are misbehaving. They say catch the next flight to Africa. What is that? So if we're going across borders, we have to articulate the values that we do not support. We have to articulate what we believe. You can't even be telling your children what you don't support, but you don't tell them what you do. So tell them what you believe. I live in Nigeria. My children are in Nigeria, but I told them that the Western world is very scientific in its nature. It's science before God. They believe in human feelings and human rights. So I start from there. So what do I believe? I believe that there is a God and there is order in society. Then I move on to say But then there's also, since they're all scientific, we have to become knowledgeable parents today. So if there's certain, information that is out there, you as a parent, don't rely on what you see online by yourself. Dr. Sioma talked about research. Go and do research. You want to talk to your children about, say, LGBTQ, you need to do research. You need to do the pros and the cons so that you have informed conversations, because the people interacting with your children in school are loaded. So you can't dismiss it by saying we are Africans. Your Africans is shallow response. And the last thing I want to say is, we have to wake up and understand the generation we're parenting. I'll share a simple story. Sad but funny. A few years back, our admirable Madam Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala won her election as president of WTO. So one of my smart mamas called her daughter and said, "Did you see that? If she had shared her nudes, she would not be elected." And her daughter turned back and said, "Well, even if she shared her news, it doesn't take away from who she really is, her potential." Now, our generation will not even think that far. Their generation have covered it. So the generation that you could tell something and they would be afraid, they don't exist anymore. Oh, yeah. These guys confront whatever it is you're presenting to them head on. So the woman asked me, "Irene," I said, "this is not the ALU. That's not the generation we're dealing with. This generation wants to meet you logically." And so I told her you needed to tell her something. That sharing her nudes is a judgment conversation. And WTO needs women with sound mind. Anybody, women or men, with sound thinking. And sharing her nudes means that under pressure she will crack. And WTO is for serious, fierce decision makers. So you put it to her and she knows that I'm not trying to beg you not to share your nudes. I'm saying that you look like a fool when you do that. So you get the idea. So understand the generation you're parenting and hit them head on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Irene. Thank you. And I know you guys want to ask questions, so I'll try and keep it short. But Irene, still on you, because we're talking about different countries, different cultures, our children's safety, whether we're with them, whether we travel with them, whether we leave them behind, having those conversations with them, because now we know our children have sense, because we had sense when we were children. So we need to have those discussions. How about body safety? How can we make our children, how can we educate them about body safety? What can we do to help them, especially our girl children, whether we're with them or not? Because only when we travel with them, we have all these busy careers. Yes. What can we do, Irene?
So I like being in a room full of women, because if I polled in this room and said, how many people here have been abused? You know that data says 1 in 5 of us will say yes. But I'm saying that 2 in 5 of us, because African women don't easily tell in public spaces. So it means that we were coming out of a pandemic of some sort in our childhood, which should make us excited about passing on body safety education to our children. We're calling it body safety education so that we can be relaxed. It's sex education, you understand? But so that you understand what it really means, that I'm just teaching my child how to protect themselves from sexual harm. And I'll say that is in 3 layers. The first layer is that we teach our children sexual abuse prevention-oriented sex education. And so you would find that as soon as your baby can say no, which is usually the first things they say, you can tell them what they should say no to. Then you can take it the next layer where we start to talk to our kids how to identify grooming, preventing sexual abuse. But I notice that many parents don't realize that sex education can be under-provided. That means you're talking to a 13-year-old who wants to date, who wants somebody to like her, and you're telling her about public and private parts. That's like making Tom Brown for a teenager and telling them it's going to be nutritious. It's not. The era has changed. When our kids get into puberty, their sex education dynamics change. But here's the beautiful thing about sex education. It is conversation. It is gisting. It can be done on the go. And the most beautiful thing about sex education is that it starts when you stop talking. So you've laid a foundation for the relationship. You've gisted them a little bit in an age-appropriate way, of course, about your childhood. And then you give them room to share their thoughts and ideas and their questions. So there's abuse prevention, but there's also the part where we start to switch. In recent times, on my handle, I've started talking about dating education. Because like these kids come to my camp, after you tell them about abuse prevention, they understand that part. The next part is, I like him. And you know, you can't be telling me that he's not trying to touch her. She wants him to touch her. The dynamics is different. I know you don't think I'm talking about your daughter. It's okay. It's okay. But it comes with puberty. It comes with the terrain. It comes with the media. It comes with online exposure. That they think that they are up to that age. So it means that the conversation needs to switch. But the third layer of it is, what about when our daughters make mistakes? And our sons? There has to be reparative strategies. Your child made a mistake, now they're labeled, now they're being dumbed down, now no one believes in them. Meanwhile, mistakes offer opportunity for the child to know the principles to overcome certain things. I'll give a practical example and end with this. I had the privilege of working with a child that was struggling with porn. Maybe you guys don't know, but porn is the fallout of COVID-19 pandemic and online learning. So if your child has not yet watched porn, I'm sure I'm talking about the child in your dreams, not the real one. Because if the real one has a device, they've seen it. So when I work with kids, I don't tell them, have you ever seen porn? Usually I say, when you saw it, what did you do? I've not yet met the child that said, I've not seen it. Hallelujah. So let's move on. So when this child started seeing porn, she lives outside of Nigeria. Her mother connected her to me. Before I met that child on her first session, her mother had bought her 3-4 books on overcoming it. That's what you should do. So when that child was sitting across me, it was like I was talking to a therapist. We were agreeing on terms. When we say you're not using the device, she was not disputing. So a child that has struggled, if they overcome it, nobody coaches them again. They know how to navigate. So now your child has failed. You have a remarkable opportunity to get them right up, to build the skills that they need to move on from there. But many of us are not seizing it. So if you've been in that place, find help for your child. Your child is going to learn how to lead themselves away from not just the harm where they fell, but how to prevent other reoccurrences in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Irene, for that. And, just to, add to what she said about porn, a lot of us are in denial over certain things. The children of today, they have devices. If a child hears someone say pornography, they're going to go and Google, what is pornography? And they will find out easily. So let's, understand the kind of world we are in and the way we need to change our parenting perspectives, our tools, and parent intelligently. You cannot ask a 15-year-old, do you know what sex is? No, they've sailed that bridge, So you need to know that the kids you're speaking to, that if you're not speaking to them about what they need to know, somebody else is, and they might be telling them the wrong things. Thank you so much, Irene. So back to Isioma, you're talking, and because you moved for career. That was your main reason for moving. And you're in a different culture. And your parents, and you're trying to be present. As my friend said it this afternoon. To be present, you have to be present. And at times, we think about, being in the same room with your child, and it's not always possible. You're at work, you're doing different things, you're on the computer. How have you been able to be a present parent to your children while achieving your career goals and doing all the amazing stuff you're doing?
I think another thing I should say is that I moved not only for career, but also to become a more present parent. I found out that when the role I was doing in Nigeria was complex and was very operational. I think, let me give a backstory. I work in the energy industry. And as an ambitious person from a family of 4 girls and from the southeast Nigeria, you grow up with almost a resistance. You can be anything, right? Because every time your dad goes to the village, it's quite a shame, right? So I came into the workplace with the I'll be anything I want to be. And then I decided to get married and I fell pregnant. I cried because I knew with this feeling of nausea and everything, how can I go offshore? Because I'm an engineer, I'm a production engineer. And so I devised this plan and I looked around me. All the ladies around me that were successful were quite senior, and some of them had no kids or one kid, and none of them had the children early in the career. I looked at the others that had kids. And I didn't quite like how their career looked, right? It looked like, So I said, I'm going to make a different decision. I'm going to continue going to the field, even if I'm pregnant and even after the kid. So I made that decision with my first child. As well as this encouragement of, build credibility. When you are credible, I moved with that. Then I had done little research on how important the early years of the child is and the bonding with the parents, safe space, and the development of the brain in the first 5 years of a child, and how important it is for the mom and the dad, for the child to have a predictable relationship and controllable relationship. Very important in those years. I had not done my research. I was just like, I don't want to just be, I didn't want a slow career. So I made that decision. And afterwards, I've just made, career-based decisions, started getting more educated. So for my second child, I said, no, I would stay. I've paid my dues with this first 6 years. This child, I will stay with the child. And so now it's 13 years into it. And I said, I've been doing all these things. I've proved the point. I'm now a production unit manager. My first child is payback time. I was not there. I didn't have a predictable, what do we call it? Contact with her when she's about to become a teenager. And so I made that decision to change my role, basically driven by her. And then the career bit was awesome. More money outside in Nigeria. God is great. So, so I made that parenting decision. It's also a parenting decision. So now being present, another thing I found out also from research and all that was, okay, you're taking these kids abroad, they are going to be minority. And by minority, even in the Middle East, because in Qatar is highly populated with Indians and Filipinos before even the Qataris. So by default, minorities will be marginalized. So how do I create space? As you said, I do a lot of things. How do I create space in my mind to be present? So the first thing I did, I left Instagram February 2022. I left Instagram. Clap for me. Yes. So I told myself I'm taking a 2-year sabbatical. The second thing I did is I dropped out of 4 other volunteer groups I was in. I can't be volunteering everywhere when my kids need me. Amen. And so I decided I'm going to volunteer with only one thing. I'm not going to be on Instagram or any social media. I just have only LinkedIn. So presence does not just happen. You have to create it and you have to have trade-offs. You have to drop some things. So I consciously dropped some things. I also consciously dropped remembering friends' birthdays and anniversaries and all that. Like, there are these little micro things that are in your brain that are stealing the time for your parenting. Stealing the time for you to see when your child comes home and is a bit sad. The demeanor had changed. So I freed up a lot of things in my brain space, and I'm still trying to free up because my natural inclination is high performance. So I'm doing it. So that's how I'm trying to be present. And if I add one more thing, I started getting interested in what they are doing, right? So my kids, my second daughter is a creative and imaginative person. So I joined her to build forts and different things around my house. My living room is somehow. Every Thursday, we do movie night together. My first daughter is more contemplative. She likes the silence. It's when you're silent, she talks. So I started taking her out for, every 2 weeks, connecting with her over maybe a cafe or walking together after dinner, something I could not do in Nigeria. After dinner, we walk along the marina, all those kind of things. But creating those micro moments with the kids, it doesn't have to be going away on holiday. Going away on holiday, somehow I think it's not enough. I think you need to create little moments in the day to connect with these children.
Creating little moments, thank you for that. And it's so important that as women, like, it's your mind, we choose what to say no. You can say no to Instagram. I had to leave the PTA chairmanship of my, my children's school. I had to leave the estate, whatever. I said, it's okay. I'm not the only person. I can resign. You have to choose. I choose not to watch some series because they can be quite addictive and take up your time. So we need to make these hard choices. What is important? What do you need to put forward? And Akinola, promise me 1 minute, because I want people to ask questions. 1 minute. I want you to just talk about how can we help our children when we're going to, like, she's in Qatar. Some people are going to Canada. Some people are going to the UK, where children are in charge, quote unquote. How can you help children maintain the lovely Nigerian cultural identity? That's the lovely parts of it, not the negative parts, while adapting to the culture of the new country that they're moving to. 1 minute, please.
Okay, thank you. So, I have an experience here. When our daughter was leaving for Washington last year, 2 years before then, we'd already drawn the plan. We have the domestic educational system we want for them, the two children. So before then, we knew one day they would go out. So we ran them through the legendary of our family, our ancestor. I made the family tree, I made them understand where we were coming from, who were their ancestors. As many as I was able to remember, I told them where my forefathers migrated from. Our forefathers migrated from Oyo town to Ibadan in 17th century. The progenitor of our father, of our ancestor, is Baba Yaji in Oyo Kingdom. They were kingmakers. So when they migrated from Oyo town to Ibadan, they become warriors. My great-grandfather was part of the people who fought Kiriji Wars. So my daughter now said, so we are descendants of, we are warriors. I said, yes. So I'm warrior. I said, yes, you are. So in 2018, I ran a survey that two things. The first one is, what do this Generation Z, what do they consider paramount in their life? The first one is personal success. Then the second one of the battles they face is identity. So these people don't know their identity. And I tell parents, even when I go to churches to minister, please, we are not descendants of Abraham. We are not descendants of Abraham. These children don't know Abraham. Tell them their ancestors. And that is why when you open the Bible, I'm sorry, 1 minute is gone. When we open the Bible, you see the children of Israel saying the genealogy. They say, our forefathers told us. Look at Psalm 45 or 44, maybe 42. How God fought for them. It was the mercy of God that delivered those lands into them. Our forefathers told us never to cede our land to any other people. I'm sorry, I want to quote this guy here, but not to support the invasion of Gaza. Benjamin Netanyahu, 7 years ago, he went to the United Nations. He was talking, he said they will not cede their land to Gaza, to Palestine. He said for one reason, because what will I tell my ancestor, Jacob, when I meet him in heaven? That thing sparked something in my head. He said, because I found it in the book of law, that our land must not be ceded. So these are the things we need to let our children know. So when our children go out of us to any land in the world, when you tell them the stories of their ancestors, they have their identity. So they can own their own. So nobody, no white boy, no white student will intimidate them. Even when they tell them that if your country was good, right, you will not come here. They should tell them that in so years, your own fathers came to Benin.
Thank you, Mr. Akinola. Thank you so much.
These are the things we need to do to build their emotional resilience anywhere they find themselves.
Thank you so much. Fantastic. And at this point, that's amazing. If you know where you're coming from, then you will know where you're going. It helps build confidence in our children. At this point, I want us to take a few questions. I'm sure we have 1 or 2 questions. And we only have 5 minutes. So can we take one question, just one?
Good afternoon, ladies. Thank you so much, panelists. My name is Yemisi Ogunlade, and I'm the Principal Consultant at Plumter Advisory. One of the things I do is I support families with UK boarding school placements. So a lot of the concepts that you have sort of mentioned relate to our families. We're very practical in our approach, and one of the things we do is pre-departure coaching because we want them to understand the practicalities of the things that their children will encounter, and so that they can thrive. But what I find to be very concerning is the fact that we don't seem to have any, will I say, cohesive, coherent, structured resource base for parents. So for instance, a child going to London Borough of Kensington, for instance, has a challenge with drug abuse. You pick up the directory for the local authority, and there is a helpline for that. I find it challenging. I need to refer parents for certain concerns that they have, whether it's gender identity or abuse, and there's no directory, there's nothing.
So what's the question?
So I'm just asking, where do we start from in being able to create those kind of resources, that kind of structure for families to be able to benefit from?
Okay, thank you, MEC. I think we'll take one more question and then I'll allow them. Please, the lady in orange at the back, in glasses. Please clap for her. Briefly, please, just get straight to the point so we can answer.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Eunice. Okay, so I have two questions. I hope I have the time to take two questions. Okay, so one of the major issues that myself and my husband have faced when talking about the relocation, JAPA, is when it comes to discipline and parental styles. How do we navigate this? How do we strike a balance? In Nigeria, we're used to it. When a child does wrong, discipline, the Bible says, spare the rod and spoil the child. How do I do that over there? And then the second question, I would just like you to share specific strategies. Okay, so in a multicultural environment where they are going to be in, how do I help my children to have like a very strong personality and still have that Nigerian factor to it?
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you so much. I think the second question has been answered already by Mr. Akinola to a large extent. I think he's already answered. And then the first question from Yemisi, I will answer for the panel. You need to put that together yourself. You have the resources. You have seen the problem. You know what to do. So I give you that challenge. Put it together yourself so that people can come to you and get that valuable resource. Your first question.
Discipline.
Discipline. Irene will take it. The first question on this, let Irene take that quick.
So I already know that you can never gather a parents' conference where somebody will not say, should I come or not? So I think that you have to be sensitive to the cultures you're going to. But I just want to also tell African parents that hitting children is a mediocre strategy to parenting. Hitting doesn't teach what to do another time. The idea of discipline is that my child made a mistake or did something wrong. They need to learn why it is wrong. They need to learn what to do another time. I have seen too many cases where children do what children are supposed to do and they get spanked for it. So what does that mean? Now you face the challenge to now communicate. Communicate clearly, communicate expectations. And I mean, there's a principle that says people need to do something for about 60 days repeatedly for a new neural pathway to happen. That means if you want your child to drop the cup in the kitchen after eating, you have to supervise them for 2 months. It's expected. But in Africa, we're automated. We've not made robots, but we have expectations that our kids are robots. I'll say it once and they'll go on to do it. So now, fortunately or unfortunately, you're now moving into a climb where the real parenting actually begins. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Irene.
Can I say something?
Okay, quickly, Mr.
In
Kola.
30 seconds, 2007, 2015, a minister in my church slapped a 7-year-old boy. And I ran in. Why would you have to do that? The man charged at me that never in my life should I put my mouth when it's discipline, quote and unquote. I said I kept short. So 2018, 19, he relocated. The same boy, he slapped that boy in 2021. The boy screamed. The man was arrested. The person that bailed him out was just his lawyer, immigration lawyer, because 4 years that he has been there, no record of violence. So they now subjected, they commuted his punishment to attend parenting training. He had to spend $1,000. The first time he went for that training, he called me. He began to apologize. He was now sending assignment to me. I said, me too, I will collect my $500 from you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Let us learn educational way of discipline before they move over there.
Thank you, Mr. Akeola. Thank you so much. It's been a great time with the panel. Please clap for everybody. We've learned a lot. We need to have these conversations, and we can do it all if we have the right tools in our toolkit to parent effectively across cultures and across cultures and across borders. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you to the moderator and the panelists for this deep dive session 1 on modern day challenges of parenting and raising families across borders. It's as if we should have converted the panel to a full day retreat, right? Beautiful. Please welcome for the presentation, Dr. Celestina A.K. MNI, Member Board of Trustees for WIMBIZ, to join them in this group photograph and also make the presentation on the stage. Can we have their bags, please?